"If you can play this piano, I'll adopt you." That was what the millionaire said. Harris' voice full of arrogance, his glass full of champagne, as laughter echoed across the golden ballroom. But what happened next left the entire room speechless, because the poor black boy they all mocked didn't just play the piano, he transformed the room. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more emotional, true-to-life stories, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We love hearing your thoughts from all around the world. Now, let's begin. The ballroom shimmered like a world untouched by sorrow. Light from 1,000 chandeliers cascaded over white marble floors, gilded mirrors, and rows of champagne glasses that sparkled like tiny stars. Every guest was dressed to perfection, satin gowns, tailored tuxedos, and shoes polished so bright they reflected the light like liquid gold dot. And in the center of it all stood a grand piano, black, shining, majestic dot. It was the crown jewel of the evening, imported from Vienna, with ivory keys and golden pedals. It wasn't just an instrument, it was a statement, a symbol of wealth, refinement, and exclusivity. But then, someone who didn't belong in that perfect world made the mistake of stepping too close. A small black boy, no more than 10 years old, stood at the far end of the ballroom, clutching a mop. His faded grey shirt hung loose on his frame, and his brown cotton trousers, patched at the knees, brushed against shoes that were falling apart at the soles. His curly hair was slightly matted from sweat, and yellow cleaning gloves clung to his trembling hands. He was Samuel, the janitor's son. He wasn't supposed to be seen. He was supposed to be invisible. But tonight, invisibility failed him. He'd been mopping the marble tiles near the piano, trying to finish before the party started. He didn't even notice when the first guests began to arrive. Music filled the air, and the hum of expensive laughter drowned out his small, careful footsteps. Then, a voice sliced through the chatter. "Excuse me." The boy froze. A man in a white suit, his chest puffed with pride, and his tie glimmering like silver, stared down at him. The man's face curled into amusement as he gestured with his glass of champagne. "Well, look at this," he chuckled, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. The help brought their child to the party. A few guests turned, then a few more, and within seconds, every glittering pair of eyes in the ballroom was fixed on Samuel. He tightened his grip on the mop, wishing he could sink into the floor. I'm sorry," he stammered, voice shaking. "I was just cleaning before the guests." Before he could finish, laughter broke out. "Cleaning?" A woman's voice rang out, high and amused. From the corner, a tall woman in a royal blue silk gown glided forward. She was stunning. Flawless curls of blonde hair, diamonds like raindrops around her neck, and a confidence that could cut through glass. Her name was Clara Beaumont, the host of the night, the powerful, the wealthy, the untouchable Dot. She looked the boy over from head to toe and smirked. "Oh, darling," she said, voice dripping with false sweetness. "You don't clean ballrooms during galas. Who told you that?" "I didn't know it started already," Samuel whispered, staring at the floor. "Oh, listen to him," Clara laughed, turning to the guests. "He didn't know. Isn't that precious?" The laughter rippled through the crowd again, echoing off the marble like thunder. Samuel's ears burned, his small shoulders hunched. He had seen this look before, on faces that believed they were better, stronger, purer, but he had never felt it so loud. Clara took a few graceful steps closer, her heels clicking sharply. She leaned in, her perfume dizzying, her smile cruel. "Tell me, boy," she said softly, but clearly enough for everyone to hear. "Have you ever even seen a piano like this before?" Samuel blinked at the grand instrument beside him, the gleaming black surface, the ivory keys. He wanted to tell her yes, that his mother had once taught him to play before they lost everything, that he used to sit beside her after school, learning scales until his fingers hurt. But his throat wouldn't let him. Clara tapped the piano lid with her manicured nails. Click, click, click. "This instrument," she said proudly, "costs more than your family will earn in a lifetime." Soft laughter rolled through the crowd again. "Maybe," another man joked, "he can use the keys as a washboard." The crowd erupted, glasses clinking, dresses swaying as laughter filled the hall. Samuel's fists tightened inside the yellow gloves. His heart ached, but his lips stayed sealed. He could endure humiliation. He'd done it before. But the way they laughed at his mother through him, but hurt deeper than any insult. Then Clara smirked, eyes flashing with a spark of mischief and cruelty. "Well, since you're standing by it," she said, turning toward the crowd, "why don't we make this interesting?" The room fell quiet with anticipation. She smiled wide. "If you can play this piano, I'll adopt you myself." The room gasped, then burst into roaring laughter. "Did you hear that?" Someone shouted. "She's going to adopt the janitor's boy. Oh, this is priceless." Another laughed. Samuel's chest tightened. Adopt him, as if he didn't already have a mother who worked herself to the bone to keep him alive. He wanted to shout, to say, "I already have a mother," but no sound came out. Clara folded her arms, her grin sharp. "What's it going to be, little cleaner? Will you play for us, or go back to scrubbing?" The crowd waited, eyes glittering with mockery. Samuel's heart pounded like thunder. He looked at the piano, then at her. Then, without a word, he took off his yellow gloves. A hush swept the room as Samuel placed his small hands on the ivory keys. Even the musicians at the far wall paused to watch. "Look, he's serious," a woman whispered. "This should be good." Samuel closed his eyes. For a moment, he wasn't in the ballroom. He was back in their old apartment, small, dusty, but filled with warmth and music. He could hear his mother's soft voice. "Don't press the keys, Samuel. Feel them. The piano speaks when you let it." He took a deep breath, and then he played. The first note rang out, quiet but clear. The laughter began again, but only for a second, because the next note followed, and then another, smooth, rich, deliberate. The melody grew. It was gentle, fragile, like the sound of a memory being brought back to life. Every note carried something inside it, the pain of struggle, the warmth of love, the echo of hope that refused to die. The crowd fell silent. Even Clara's smirk began to fade. Her glass tilted in her hand as she stared, unmoving, unable to believe what she was hearing. The sound filled the ballroom, real music, born from the heart of a boy they had just mocked. When the final note echoed into silence, no one moved. The only sound was the slow, uneven breath of the boy who had just turned their laughter into awe. "Samuel." The voice came from the doorway. Everyone turned. A woman in a plain maid's uniform, slightly wrinkled from hours of work, stood trembling at the entrance. Her eyes were wide with shock and fear. "Samuel," she whispered again, rushing forward. "I told you to stay in the service quarters." She pushed past the stunned guests until she reached her son. Her trembling hands grabbed his shoulders. "I'm so sorry," she said breathlessly, turning to Clara. "Please, madam, forgive him. He meant no harm. I had no one to leave him with tonight, so I brought him. I thought he'd help clean quietly in the back." Her voice cracked. The crowd shifted uneasily. Clara's face was still frozen, a mix of disbelief and embarrassment. "No, please," the maid continued desperately. "Don't punish him. It was my fault." The boy lowered his head, shame burning in his chest. He had played the piano for his mother, to remind her that all their sacrifices weren't for nothing. But now, she was apologizing to the people who laughed at them. Then, from somewhere in the crowd, a man spoke. "That wasn't luck," he said softly. "That was talent." Another voice joined in. "He played better than the entertainer we hired last month." The murmurs grew. Shame spread across faces that had once been twisted with amusement. Finally, Clara forced a tight smile. "Well," she said, laughing weakly, "a deal's a deal. I said if he could play, I'd adopt him. I don't take back my words." Gasps rippled through the room. The maid's knees nearly gave out. "No, please," she begged, voice trembling. "He's my son. He belongs with me. I only work here to feed him. Please, don't take him." The room went still. Clara hesitated. The weight of 100 disapproving stares pressed on her. Then, the older man in the grey tuxedo spoke again, his voice stern this time. "That's enough, Clara." This stopped being funny the moment that boy touched those keys. You humiliated a child, and he showed you what grace looks like. For a long moment, Clara said nothing. Then she looked at Samuel, really looked at him, and the smirk finally vanished from her face. Samuel's mother knelt before him, tears in her eyes. "You did nothing wrong," she whispered, holding his hands. "Nothing." He looked up at her, and for the first time that night, he smiled as they walked toward the servants' door. The crowd silently parted for them. No one dared to speak. The chandelier's light shimmered above them like a spotlight as they left the golden hall behind them. Clara stood still, her champagne untouched, her pride stripped away, and in the silence that followed, every guest could still hear the echo of Samuel's music, the sound of dignity that no amount of money could buy. And that night, though he left with nothing in his pockets, Samuel left with something far greater: respect. Because courage doesn't need wealth, it only needs truth, and a voice brave enough to be heard. If this story moved you, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more powerful life stories, and tell us what you learned from Samuel's courage. Remember, kindness is the music that changes the world. Stay inspired, stay kind, and keep watching.